Welcome into Daggerheart characters. Today we're going to be trying to create working title, Time Cop. Ultimately, really, maybe that did help to end up creating this history. I just wanted to start out the basic idea. I wanted to see if you could create a Chornomancer or a Dunamantic character, a time wizard. Ultimately, is what I wanted to see if these cards, if the Codex and Splendor card set, mostly the Codex, would be able to do that. And so I just want to share this character build with you. This is a lot about flavor, as much as it is, of course, about the mechanics of it and how viable of a build it is. But I just thought this character was pretty fun. So it is a Clank. Let's go through that. We do have a Clank, which will give us a permanent 1 bonus to some of our experiences. One of our experiences, I think, there, and very efficient. So I thought that made sense for this character that we made. I wasn't going into this thinking I was going to build Clank, but like immediately, Clank's at the top of the list. And immediately, I was like, I think I want to make this a Clank Time Wizard. And then it's like, so where do we go from there? And I was like, I think maybe they could be like a protector of time. And honestly, ultimately, I think I call it out here at some point. Like, am I creating Miss Minutes from Loki, from Marvel? Maybe, is this a time cop? I don't know. We'll get to some of the flavor. I think it's a fun character. This is supposed to be a relatively quicker video. Also, they'd be well read. Went Loreborn. I think that makes the most sense here, in terms of where this character is and where they come from and what they would, their abilities would be. Went School of Knowledge, of course. I did end up, I think, upgrading each of the subclasses. Is that what that is? Yeah, all the subclass features and class features there. Is there anything that's super timey-wimey here? So some of the goal here was to see how much would I need to reflavor things. Would things be easy to reflavor? Would I have to reflavor stuff at all to get to this Chronomancer, what I'm going to call a Dunamantic wizard? I think plenty of times in my write-up there throughout, how easy is this to make or not? So, just starting off, though, not this time, obviously, perfect. So, there's going to be some stuff dealing with time for this wizard. Spend 3 hope to force an adversary within far range to re-roll an attack or damage roll. So here's my introduction to this character here. Medical bot. Built out of cost-effective metal that provided long-term durability for the bots, who was repurposed by a scientist. So I'm going to put this wizard in plate armor, because that's what I kind of figure is the best representation. That, these medical bots, maybe they're made by the government for the government, so it's like we're going to invest in something not the cheapest because we want these things to last for as long as possible without having to do any maintenance on them, but also cost effective as well. So we're not going to give them like some sort of magical armor or anything, but they are built from metal. And so that was part of this character, is like, I can't change that. I can't add different armor. That's something just flavoring into it. But I can upgrade my armor. I think we'll get into that. So, turning me into a sentient mechanical being. Okay, so I'm a medical bot who was repurposed by a scientist, turning me into a sentient mechanical being. So these medical bots, I think, were less sentient, but my owner, as I will refer to him, needed sentience from me, and the purpose of me was to help work on development, study, and ultimately to protect the timeline if it needs protecting. I don't actually know, nor did my owner. He was just like sort of a doomsday prepper. There wasn't some sort of specific threat that my owner's working against, literally working against the clock in order to prep something up. This was just kind of his area of interest, study, and fear was that. Maybe he watched a few too many Marvel movies or something and got afraid of Kang. So my spell list is on a thumb drive because my owner was prepared for and hopeful that I might learn/develop new spells in the field of Dunamancy. So actually, just to let you know too, I came up with this write-up, honestly, as I went through the mechanical portion of building this character. So I built it ahead of time, and that's where I made some of these realizations of how to operate, because it's like, what's your spell book? And I'm like, well, I'm a bot. What would be interesting? Oh, I could put it on my thumb drive. And then as I started to create my backstory here, it's like, oh, well, you know what? Maybe it's on a thumb drive for a specific reason instead of being on a hard drive internally. So by having this information stored on a portable drive, on a portable drive, he could upload it elsewhere, analyze and study any new developments that were found. Maybe he could run it through a computer program, the spell, and find, is there anything within the code that could unlock the essence of time spells, that you could then go and create different types of time spells that nobody's ever thought of, created, whatever, been able to make before. Those types of things is where my mind was at. With his studies, maybe he could work with me to tweak a spell, hone it, perfect it, etc. Ultimately, his goal would have been to write and publish his findings and become world-renowned for saving the world from an unknown threat. Or, as science sometimes does, maybe be the cause of this new threat and he was trying to defend against. Regardless, that was my short intro. That's me, Miss Minutes, from the Marvel Universe. Yeah, I couldn't help but think, am I Miss Minutes? This character was not built to go on missions and get in fights, so strength and agility aren't going to be strengths of his. So I lost, I think I started out with negative strength, and then I took, or maybe that's because of the armor, I don't know, I took a couple of negative whomps due to some of the design choices that I figured this character has no choice of changing, much like, the body armor. I also limited myself to working with the natural armor that this bot would have. However, it is upgradable, at least. The outside can change or improve while maintaining the important stuff on the inside. Some of the bits and bobbles, etc., of being a medical bot or droid previously, they still exist. So that goes to part of the build of this. So here's the first 5 spells, and you might notice, or I should say domain effects cards, and you might notice they're not very timey-wimey. You got Reassurance, once per rest after all attempts and action roll, but before the consequences take place. You can offer assistance or words of support. When you do, your ally can re-roll their dice. So because of the other class here, Mending Touch, you get an idea of what that would do. Also, Healing Hands, Second Wind, all of these things that are about recharging, charging others up, healing. Those help to make that decision of this was a medical bot that got repurposed, the very beginning of that build, because the spell books and stuff, the spells that are available early on aren't very timey-wimey. The best one, the closest that I honestly had to take because I ran out of other things that made sense unless I wanted to go the divine route, and I didn't want to go divine. I wanted to keep this obviously I could have repurposed, but they were just outright attack spells. And I'm like, why would this guy have those kinds of attack spells? So I went Book of Iliad. I thought, first of all, it has Arcane Barrage, kind of a force damage type thing. And this is a character that, once we look at some of the experiences, it actually if you're working with time and space, then you have to have an understanding of physics. So that's an expertise for this character, is physics. And with physics, force damage, I figured there is an understanding there. So I did lean into time, space, and physics were the 3 things that I was looking into in terms of flavor of these decisions for the domain cards that I was choosing. And then I figured you could work around slumber, you slow the atoms and that puts them to sleep or whatever, if you really need to flavor this. Or, maybe you've been working around with spell work and stuff. Maybe you just kind of stumbled across a couple on the internet that you stored on your thumb drive because I don't know. You could say that, for this slumber one, maybe your owner asked you to learn that because they have trouble sleeping. And so this was kind of instead of taking a drug to help sleep, you help them sleep and you would put them to slumber when they were ready for bed. There you go. I just thought of that off the top of my head. And then telepathy, didn't love it, but once again, this was the best thing. Maybe I'll never use it. Maybe I'll use it very sparingly, just mechanically when it's this would be a really good thing to use here. So I'm just going to use it for the purpose of the game mechanics. But still, I think somewhat you can flavor this within the realms of time, space, physics, telepathy, slightly off kilter, but good enough. So we got part of that out of the way. Just to go back here, right there. As for the bot's personal goals, after losing its owner, it has decided that ultimately it will continue this eternal search for Dunamantic spells, or whatever you want to call it exactly, but, timey-wimey stuff. The alteration of time is something that excites this bot. After all, that is what it was programmed to do, right? There is some internal programming that, you get not technical joy out of this, but you get joy from doing this. This is your purpose. So this whole sentence is stuff that I just went over, but I'm going to cut that out of the video because these are things that I already talked about in a little bit more detail. I loaded up on stress for this character because I have a lot of domain cards that I can shuffle between, use, need a lot of stress for this character. I wanted to be able to take on stress plenty with this build. I knew it would be a resource that was needed, so I believe I maxed it out. At every turn, I took as much stress as I could. I end up with 12 stress on this character. I was able, I think, to add 1 hit point slot, and I am built for tough here. So 27, 54 there from the plate armor. I did deck this out with tier 4 plate armor. I didn't bother. I'm not really going to be bonking things too much, so that's not really part of the character that I bothered there. In terms of the experiences here, protect the timeline, of course, that's encoded in me. Emotion, sadness, my master died, and I think that I am a sentient being, and that's the first time where there was such enough of an emotion that it kind of rewrote my code maybe to now I know what this is. I'm able to feel it, and now maybe I can use that to try to help console others who are sad. I gained empathy, essentially, I think, is how I would use that emotion. Understanding of the laws of physics, I told you about that one. And then I also figured that one of the spells that I get helps me to be able to create a construct, because the other spell on that list is really timey-wimey, I think, so I took it. But also, one of my, the beginning... Does it have it on here? My beginning equipment, I took a little dude, a tiny harmless elemental pet, which I figure is kind of my last remaining thread that I have in terms of my owner. That's my little charm of my owner. Maybe it was my owner's, and then when my owner died, it followed me around, and there's just that little a bit of human kind of feelings that I get with that little dude. And so being able to create a construct that I figure he can go into and become bigger, and instead of being harmless, he can actually help me legitimately in fights and stuff, that brought me joy, being able to bring him more to life than he already was in this form of a construct. And then I'll probably have to go through sadness at some point, because I'll probably have to drop that spell and thus say goodbye to the construct. But I think that the tiny harmless guy will remain, at least. And then some sort of 5th experience, whatever. But those were kind of the things that I thought of while I was going through and creating this guy. I will just quick go through, look at all of this. Being a wizard and choosing through each of those expertises is able to get more domains, and I think I added domains as well at times. So took a lot of books. So let's just go through this build. It took the Book of Grin, Time Lock, obviously very timey-wimey thing, and Wall of Flame, which I think, fire-type spells, a Wall of Flame is a basic enough type of spell and idea that you could easily say, once again, this is something that maybe the bot just found on the internet store, because it's this could be useful at some point in my life if I'm under threat. Repudiate, you can interrupt a magical effect taking place. I think you can easily flavor this to be, quite timey-wimey. You're almost precognitive in seeing this magical effect is about to happen, and thus you are able to get ahead of it by a little bit and prevent it from ever happening. Oh, there's your create construct as well. Notice a lot of this at least spends hope and stuff, but also a lot of it takes a lot of stress to bring out. 2 stress, 3 stress. Teleport, 2 stress. Of course, teleport, that we don't even need to open that. Of course, that's a space and time type of thing. You either travel through space or you travel through time. You have to travel through one or the other if you are traveling anywhere. If If you're staying still, well, then you're staying in the same space and time. Generally, technically, maybe you're technically moving, right? But we get the idea here. On Earth, I should say, you're technically moving. Teleport, you're moving through time. So, timey-wimey stuff. Shape metal, this was one of those that I kind of had to take because there was just I needed a domain, and to alter the molecules of things is close enough. It's a physics thing, right? So we're close enough there. Made sense. Restoration, you're returning something to its previous state. Healing it, also we have the fact that we were a heal bot, so this just might be something that kind of I know how to do this. I remember how to do this. You could just play it off as from your healing bot days. There we go. Then we got the Book of Hamet, Pass Through. So very similar to Shape Metal in terms of you can kind of create a door for your group. And Plane Gate felt like something that this build should have. Banish, no stress. You love it. And of course, banishing means moving a creature not through space, but through time once again. So that's very much in play. Safe Haven, creating a rift within time, a dimension, a little pocket door within your timeline that you're hiding within. Technically might be a little bit against my code of protecting the timeline, but it's not harming anyone. It's not changing the timeline. It's just kind of hiding within it. And hopefully not changing it, I suppose, because you're able to hide within it. But keeping everybody safe. I think it's restorative as well here to some extent too. So you like that. Shield Aura. I just had to choose something else. So I don't know. Creating a force wall, physics. We can make it work. Disintegrate wave, pulling molecules, pulling everything, atoms, I should say, apart. Once again, very much in the physics realm, but look at how much everything costs in order to get out of my vault and everything. So that's why we needed stress. And then, of course, the 10th level Time Jammer. I mean, do we need to go more into that? Slowing down time and magic immunity, sure. So yeah, there's enough here. Some reflavoring, and if you really want to go into healing bot reflavor and steal this character, go right ahead. You don't have to protect the timeline. That's just kind of something I did as I created Time Cop as the joke to begin with, and then I started creating them, and I thought of Missed Minutes, and I kind of just wrote protecting the timeline into it for fun. That's just 100,000% flavor. But yes, there you go. That's the character. If you liked it, let me know. Let YouTube know in the comments. And, like, comment, subscribe. You know how to do those things. Do it if you want more of this kind of stuff. Because I need to know it and YouTube needs to know it for, I could disappear any day if you guys don't like this stuff. But I hope you do. Also, look at that. 7 armor slots. Yeah, it's a pretty beefy wizard. I love that you can do that so easily in this game. Was there anything else that we wanted to touch upon before we go? A nice little feature here that will help. You can at least reduce the cost by 1 when you're recalling something from your vault. Once per rest. Yep, we covered the other stuff. All right, thank you very much. Take care. I hope you're doing well. Bye-bye.